Public Schools Board of Education to order. Would you please stand for the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item, we would like to welcome our new board member, Angelina Barnes, in her first regularly scheduled meeting. Was sworn in on February 22nd. Welcome. We're all looking forward to working with you, getting to know you better, and having your expertise here. Welcome. Mr. Stoddard, would you please call the roll?
Sir, Angelina Barnes.
Present.
Wade Spike.
Present.
Jason Hanselman. Brad Stoddard here. John Travoltano.
Here.
Lisa Truscott.
Here.
Brad Weaver.
Here.
And the seesaw here. So we have one.
Great, thank you. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to remove the presentation item 5.
Any seconds?
I support.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda.
So they will be back, we're tabling that until after nationals.
Yep, we were scheduled to have a presentation from the DeWitt Archery Club, but that will be postponed until after a national competition. So we're looking forward to having that at that point. Student report, Sunny is not here tonight, but she did have a report, so that's on your blue page. So please make sure you take a look at that. We will move on to public communication for items found on the agenda. It is the practice of the Board of Education to permit persons in this audience to make statements concerning agenda items at this time. Please complete a public comment form and return it to the board desk if you wish to speak or prefer to express a written comment. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes and no participant may speak more than once.
So we have one that is on the agenda. Chelsea Brown.
Tonight I'm going to talk about Shanna's closed session review and her experiment allergy to transparency. Last time we were here for regular meetings, Shanna rejected calls from the community and members of the board to rescind the mask mandates despite all of the science and agencies that she claimed to rely on turning against her in the days leading up to that meeting. She claims to care about board and community input, and yet almost every person who cares enough to come to these meetings spoke up against the made-up, unwritten policy she enforced. Not only that, but members of the board themselves spoke out against her, and her response was to lecture and then ignore every one of us. A mere 3 days later, apparently something finally swayed her, and she agreed to lift the mandate. But what was it that swayed her? What science did she look at? Who did she talk to? How did she come to a decision that 3 days earlier she wouldn't even consider? These are things we have a right to know. This is why the Open Meetings Act exists and why policy is supposed to be enacted by the board at those open meetings. So imagine my great shock when Shanna's employment review was held behind closed doors at 7:30 a.m. on some random Monday. And yes, I know the Open Meetings Act allows this, but it must be at her request, which is my point. Why is Shanna so against transparency? Since we are excluded, I'm here to offer a quick review of my own, but since I'm sure the rule 167.3 that only allows a single 3-minute speaking period is going to be enforced, I guess I'll have to be quick. So, spoiler alert, I think that Shanna's contract should not be extended and she should be fired. Despite her calling herself a leader in her Twitter bio, she does not lead. She seizes power she knows she does not have and dares anyone to stop her. If anyone does try, she lies, changes her story, and deflects blame onto others. As an example, Shanna spent the better part of this school year claiming that the health department issued all district quarantines. When confronted with a sworn affidavit from a health department official that they had never issued a single such quarantine, instead of offering any explanation, the next time a district communication addressed quarantines, Shanna simply changed the wording from quarantine to temporary exclusion, kept issuing them, and moved on without ever having to address such a massive lie. In another example, despite my FOIA request asking about the restrictive visitor policies, Shanna provided nothing that was not already publicly posted, despite having verbally given at least 3 stories about how the policies came to be. First, that they were implemented for teacher comfort. Second, that they were issued by individual principals and she had nothing to do with them. And third, that they're actually the same policies as they were pre-COVID and they exist for school safety reasons. If any of these explanations are true, why was no record of them provided to me? Again, she simply moves from lie to lie without any explanation, despite a FOIA request that she has either not complied with or purposely worked around to avoid a written record. These are the types of issues that a private sector employee gets fired for. And yet, as far as I'm aware, no one has even questioned her about any of it. The board has a chance to rectify that tonight. For the sake of transparency and honesty, could someone please do so? If you're not going to fire her, could you ask her to explain the lies about quarantines at this open meeting? Could you ask about visitor policies and which version of the story, if any, is true? Could you ask her why she changed her mind about masking 3 days after insisting she would not? And could you ask her why she prefers to make policy behind closed doors? We shouldn't even have to ask this. Any interested community member should be able to attend an open meeting and find answers. We shouldn't be relegated to FOIA-ing things that are supposed to happen in public or using our comment period to ask for things we have a legal right to know. We would like the board to be a transparency ally. Would you please get us answers? Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam Holland.
They told me before I walked out.
You went to read it.
Good evening. I'd like to congratulate Ms. Barnes on her appointment to the board. Hope that she'll provide a fresh, independent perspective, especially on the legal and ethical front where this board is lacking. It's had some very public missteps from under-the-table policymaking at the superintendent level. On that subject, in her interview, she was asked about a recent board decision of particular importance in the process for balancing potentially competing considerations that she would employ prior to vote. Naturally, the biggest and most controversial policy came to mind, masking. But the board did not, and still to this day has not properly weighed in on the question, save for the November adoption of policy 8450.01, which I have for you here. That policy requires board resolution for activation. That never happened. The mask policy continued nonetheless. And Superintendent Spickard is still hanging on to holding on existing quarantine authority like a hair on a biscuit. Now that we've reached a low ebb with COVID, this board should be freed of fear of having to do its job and take action. The board needs to openly deliberate and decide what our COVID policy will be, namely for masking and quarantines if or when COVID cases rise. We're not going to be forced back under the sole control of the good doctor's orders again. If Ms. Barnes was earnest in her representations of seeking and accepting this position as a true servant of the public trust, beholden to the law and ethical duties, then duty demands she decried of the illegal policymaking, the silent delegations, the exclusion of public input, the avoidance of accountability, and the intentional misapplication of existing policies come to an end. I urge the board to take action tonight to reclaim the powers usurped or ostensibly delegated to the superintendent on this very important issue, which will surely repeat. School board policy and decision-making is required to be an openly deliberative democratic process. Before Ms. Barnes' appointment, those fundamental obligations were anathema to this board. Even when policies and actions came before the board, the public was left completely in the dark, with no deliberation or discussion, no prior notice of policy terms, and now even a fabricated limitation on our ability to speak. Since I'll soon be cut off based on an intentional misapplication of the new public participation policy, I would also urge Ms. Barnes to compare the prior public comment rule with the new one and share her opinion on whether public comment is permissible for multiple 3-minute periods on multiple topics. Also, there was much discussion during the interviews regarding individual board members' inability to speak for the board as a whole without prior formal action. To this day, it remains posted on the district website a board statement in support of Superintendent Spickard's COVID policy that was not authorized or adopted by this board. Please remove it. Finally, given the countless transgressions, absence of apology, and likelihood of recidivism, please vote to terminate Superintendent Spickard's contract. Thank you.
That's all for this portion.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Okay, consent agenda. It is the recommendation by Superintendent Dr. Shauna Spickard that the Board of Education adopt, approve, and accept the following items for immediate implementation and appropriate action as presented. Approval of minutes for special meeting and regular meeting February 14th, curriculum and improvement meeting February 23rd, work session and closed session from February 28th, Treasurer's report, bills for payment for the month of February 2022, out-of-state overnight trip request for DHS choir and theater to Chicago, Illinois, and professional hire of DeWitt High School special education teacher Ms. Taylor Van Dyke. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Support.
Okay. Moved and supported, any discussion? Give a minute to review these minutes if you'd like. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, action items. First is a recommendation by Superintendent Shauna Spicker, the Board of Education approve the 2022-23 DeWitt Middle School Curriculum Guide as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any support?
Support?
Okay. Any discussion? Dr. Spicker?
So Keith is here to kind of, he did provide a summary sheet for you. A lot of it was kind of moving around and editing, but do you want to highlight the top changes in the guide?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't thank you for considering this and taking appropriate action tonight on this, but this is our curriculum guide that we've had in place. We revise each year a little bit, some of our language. Most of it was language. We did add an elective in a science area, an outdoor science elective, which one of our teachers is excited about exploring and hoping for the opportunity to provide that. Also, just we alphabetize things within there. That's why the document has so many green. So it's just that we hadn't done that a little bit and just felt like it was time to reorganize. So that was most of the reorganization of it. These are courses that a lot of them we've been able to offer each year, but we do base it on student requests too. So once we get student requests in, there may be some courses that just based on student requests, we don't have enough people to actually offer that particular course. But these are all variety that will be going out to our students upon approval. So that's basically the gist of it. Any questions?
Any discussion or questions for Dr. Cravata? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next, action on Jewel lawsuit. It is the recommendation by Superintendent Shauna Spicker that the Board of Education adopt the resolution authorizing and directing the superintendent to join the lawsuit and sign the attorney-client fee contract on behalf of DeWitt Public Schools. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any support?
Support.
Okay. Dr. Spicker, you want to give background?
So this particular lawsuit is kind of a joint, and I'm not expecting to actually reap any benefits. It's more of a stance to take against a lot of the vaping, and Jewel has done a lot to market for it at adolescents, and so we have had several of our middle school and high school students suspended because of that. So it's more of taking a stance. So I reached out to them to see if, because this had started last year, that if DeWitt had already signed up and they had said no, and it would take a resolution by the board, it won't cost us anything to be involved in the suit.
Do you know how many other districts from Michigan are participating? Because this was a national lawsuit, is that right? Do you know any?
I'm not sure. I mean, I could check with Troon. They do need, obviously the resolution needs to be done by the 24th, but I could come back from.
I was just curious, and just to reiterate, this does not cost DeWitt
This does
any
not cost
money.
us any money at all.
Okay.
And so, obviously, the only money that would be awarded to even the attorneys would be a percentage, I think 25, 30, 25%, I think it was.
It's 25% of the firm
Anything
that's doing the
awarded to them.
litigation and 35% of the
Yeah, which would be divided up. And again, to me, it's not about reaping any financial benefits as much as it is taking a stand.
Any questions for Dr. Spicker? Nope. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Actually, it's a roll
It's a
call.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is a roll call vote. Yes, thank you, Brad. Please, go ahead.
Angelina Barnes? Dwight Hanspike? Just Hanselman? Stoddard, yes. John Trumpton?
Yes.
Reese Truscott?
Yes.
Brad Weaver?
Yes.
Passes.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Next, moving on to Bobcat tractor. Just some background for the audience. The district purchased its existing tractor in 1999. Over the last several years, the tractor has needed many repairs and has officially come to the end of its useful life. The district participates in My Deal, a state of Michigan-run purchasing program. This program allows participating schools to receive state of Michigan bid pricing on a wide range of items. Because of this partnership, the district was able to obtain a quote for a new tractor using the My Deal program. The tractor will be paid for using funds from the district's operations budget. It is the recommendation by Superintendent Shauna Spickert and Assistant Superintendent Rob Spagnuolo that the DeWitt Public Schools Board of Education approve the purchase of a tractor from Bobcat utilizing the My Deal program in the amount of $39,300 as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support. Great. Rob, anything you want to add to this?
No, I think I covered it.
Okay, any questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carries. Okay, next item on technology device purchases. There's a recommendation by Superintendent Shauna Spickert that the Board of Education approve the following purchase as presented by the DeWitt Public Schools Technology Department. 99 Dell Windows laptops for $98,901. 4 Bradford Cube charge carts, $4,156. 525 Hewlett-Packard 14-inch touch Chromebooks, $201,768.50. 525 Chromebook cases for $13,623.75. And 128 Hewlett-Packard 14-inch touch Chromebooks for $49,344.32. Sherry, anything you want to add to that?
Only that this will help us get technology at the ready moving in 2 of our buildings, the others to follow with additional bond funds as we move through them, so.
Great. Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have one, and I understand we're trying to stretch the life of some of the equipment, but I think we may be seeing this before the end of the span, which I think Sherry's identified 5 to 7 years for laptops. And we might be seeing this come back in 5 years, especially with what's kind of going around with global supply right now. So just a heads up on board. It may not stretch the 7 years that she's hopeful.
Sherry, are all of these in? Did you get them in any issues with supply chain?
Yes, so we're ordering them now with the real hope that we'll have them in time for the start of the school year. There have been times where we've ordered and we've gotten them relatively quickly, within weeks, and then there have been other times that we've been waiting for months within last year. So it just really depends on when you hit, and spring is a very heavy purchasing time for most school districts, so, you know, we're just holding on, just like everyone.
And you mentioned 2 schools. Which 2 schools will be impacted by this purchase?
The high school is the target of this purchase. The middle school is the one that we've just recently pretty much gotten up to speed in terms of, so there will be technology at the ready at both the middle school and the high school moving forward into the fall.
Okay.
Great. Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, for action, the superintendent evaluation. The DeWitt Public Schools Board of Education met in closed session on Monday, February 28th, 2022 to evaluate Superintendent Dr. Shauna R. Spickert for the 2021 school year. Ms. Tricia Murphy Alderman, an MASB consultant, served as facilitator for the closed session. The board's performance evaluation system objectively measured the superintendent's performance in several goal areas. So for those of you who may not be familiar with the MASB tool, it breaks down into roughly 5 categories to evaluate your superintendent. The first is governance and board relations. Dr. Spickert was rated at a 3.33, it's 20%. Community relations, 3.66 at 15%. Staff relations, 3.71 at 15%. Business and finance, 3.60 at 20%. Instructional leadership, 3.55 at 30%. For a total professional practice grade of 3.56 and an 89%. Student growth also gets factored into that at 40%. The student growth score that is not scored subjectively by the board, it actually is based on data that comes in, and the numbers are the numbers. In student growth, Dr. Spickert received a 3.0 at 40% and progress toward district-wide goals at 3.0 at 10% for an overall performance rating of 3.28, which is 82% or effective. And I do have a statement here from Board President Jason Hanselman on behalf of the board that I'd like to read as well. Michigan's revised school code requires school boards to evaluate the superintendent's job performance annually as part of a comprehensive performance evaluation that takes into account student growth data and other factors. This has been a tumultuous year to become a new superintendent, and we are pleased with Superintendent Spickert's performance in her first year. We thank Superintendent Spickert for her service to the district and look forward to working with her to continue to improve our students' academic performance and growth over the next year. The Michigan Association of School Boards evaluation tool evaluates superintendents on the following categories, as I mentioned: governance and board relations, community relations, staff relations, business and finance, instructional leadership, student growth, and progress toward district-wide goals. Based on the board's analysis of those metrics, there are 4 possible rankings for superintendent: ineffective, minimally effective, effective, and highly effective. And we have ranked Superintendent Spickert at effective. As required by state law, student test scores from prior to and immediately after her hiring resulted in an overall ranking of effective. However, the board's ranking with regard to the evaluation metrics within Superintendent Spickert's control was highly effective. We are pleased with her efforts during her first 8 months and appreciate her desire to continue learning and improving for herself and the district. Superintendent Spickert has led the district with dignity and grace through these times, and we're excited for the district's future with her at the helm. Okay. Do I have a motion to accept Dr. Spickert's evaluation?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any further discussion?
John, I just want to ask a question, since I'm only 3 years on the board, but my memory, if it serves me correctly, is that the evaluation was always done with Dr. Dieter in a closed session as well.
Yes, so that is precedent. Shauna could probably do that as well, but having worked at MASB2, that is the norm for all school districts. That is not something DeWitt has just done historically. Superintendents are evaluated in closed session. It's
Okay.
just, that's the norm.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
I just wanted to confirm, and I want to address the 7:30 a.m. meeting was a result of so many board members not being available, me being one of them, that caused a cancellation for one of the meetings. So we had it scheduled for an evening, but
3
had-
times.
but had to reschedule because of so much illness amongst board members and not having a quorum. So that's the explanation for the 7:30 a.m. time. Mhm.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the evaluation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, letter F, extension of the superintendent's contract, which was emailed to board members. Recommendation, the Board of Education approve the superintendent contract for Dr. Shauna R. Spickert to be extended through June 30th, 2025, along with some typographical edits as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay. Moving on to public communications for any items now, it is the practice of the Board of Education to permit persons in the audience to make statements concerning items not listed on the agenda at this time. Mr. Stoddard.
James Renner?
Thank you. Congratulations. I will make another comment on the bad audio system you have here. I don't know how many of you could understand much of the discussion that was taking place up here. I know I couldn't, but then I have an age restriction. So, coming up here, I want to talk about an item concerning trusts and associations. Those of you that may or may not know that in a letter issued by the DNSBA, the School Board Administration, has now been proven as collusion between Secretary of Education and the board. There's documentation out that clearly shows that it was invited. The board then wrote a scathing letter identifying many of us as domestic terrorists. And that letter went to President Biden. 2 days later, it went to the Attorney General, and therefore enacted his powers of investigation, including the FBI. Any of you that have been in government service, and I have, 2 days reaction is astounding. So it does call into question collusion. between Department of Education on the federal level, this school board administration, and then directly going to the President of the United States. And as a result, there's been quite a bit of controversy. 49 states used to belong to this association. 21 have resigned. That's almost, let me get my data out here. That is 43% of the organizations, of the state organizations that belong to this national organization have resigned. Additional have added comments on how inappropriate this was. My concern is the state of Michigan has done nothing, but individual school boards have the capability of resigning from this organization, which has already proven itself inept. That's the best thing you can say. And deceitful is another way of saying it. Primarily to temper the voice of concerned parents at school board meetings. I find this offensive. I find this anti-democratic. And just allow me to read one excerpt from a letter written by a school board. And I'll make it brief, please. This one said, the September 29, 2021 NSBA letter to President Biden was a clear overreach on the part of this organization, and it violates the fundamental principle of local authority upon which the Delaware public education system is founded and structured. Local authority includes the school board governance of the district as well as the local citizens' authority over the board and district through participation in board meetings, electing board members, as well as voting on taxation referenda. The Delaware School Boards Association remains focused on the work of advocating for the needs of students and public in general. We will not be distracted by the NSBA's departure from proper and prudent boardsmanship. There are 20 others of a similar nature, if not even more direct. Obviously, I chose Delaware. That was a home district of President Biden. The longer you associate with this organization, first of all, is it going to last? Almost half its members are no longer paying dues. But the longer this school district associates with this organization, increasing issues of trust will abide. This is a pure manipulated political agenda that is now documented. So I ask you to take this under advisement. I appreciate the time, and again, congratulations. Thank you.
Sorry, I just want to add one thing to that, just for clarity. We are not members of the National School Boards Association. That's not how their structure works. So like you alluded to in your letter, their structure is based on states. We are a member of the Michigan Association of School Boards, but DeWitt is not a member of the National School Boards Association.
It is listed on some of your previous documentation.
Probably only because the state belongs to it, the state association does,
Okay.
but that's how their structure does. We don't vote on becoming members of NSBA. We only vote on becoming members of MASB.
Thank you for the give and take.
Absolutely.
But I would say you need to distance yourself from this organization, even if you have to notify the state of these concerns. Anybody that has been involved in state government knows the one thing that you should never lose, and I was involved, is your integrity of the organization. They've lost theirs. In no way should you belong to it. In no way the state should belong to it. Again, thank you, John.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Will?
Thompson.
The handouts, I apologize, I don't have enough for everybody, it wasn't, the ink ran out. Thank you for your time. I do want to follow up on my request from the last meeting that you could please coordinate the timing of this meeting with the township and city meetings. They all occur on the same exact night. In fact, my wife had to make a choice tonight, and she is at the township meeting. Seems like a pretty simple thing to do, and I would greatly appreciate it. Next, I'd like to reference the handouts that I sent. There was many different polls taken by Rasmussen lately that I think we should consider. First and foremost, I'd like to say that with transparency, we build trust in our community, and I am very much for transparency. A recent Rasmussen poll found that 44% of voters believe that many schools teach a radical ideology that would be offensive to parents. 68% believe that public schools are lowering their standards rather than expecting stronger performance from students. That should give us all pause, and it should be troubling to all of us that that's what people think. Our school district should be constantly working to build trust with our parents. What better way to build trust with all of our parents than to be completely transparent with what is being taught in our schools? If you look at the Rasmussen poll, it shows that the vast majority, 85% of parents believe they should be allowed to see all curriculum, books, and other materials that are used in classes. 85% of the people in this country rarely agree with anything. So that should take us, we should take note of that. Not only do 85% of the parents believe they should be able to see all the materials being taught to their children, but the Michigan Revised School Code gives parents the legal right to see all materials being taught in the class. That's also included on the back side of the handout. The problem is, we all have very limited time, and it is extremely hard for us to find stuff. And I don't know why that is. We just talked about purchasing a whole bunch of computers and Chromebooks, and yet why isn't everything online for everybody to see? I think that would solve a lot of these problems. So I'm asking the school board to work with the superintendent to make it easy for every parent to be able to access not only the curriculum, but all the books and teaching materials that will be used in classes. I'm specifically asking for these to be available online. That really, in this day and age, should be the way it is. Not only will that allow them to see the curriculum and hopefully have greater trust, but if their child is home and they need to access materials, it'll make it very easy, and it'll relieve the teachers of having to do that if it's done right. If there's anything to do that I can help with in that, I'm more than happy to help. Finally, I would like to talk about parent involvement in curriculum development. Additionally, in the Rasmussen poll, it said that 71% of the voters believe that parents should play a significant role in the curriculum development process. I don't think our community is any different than what that poll says, and there is a desire. Why would we not take the opportunity to hear the great ideas of our parents? Our parents want to have their voices heard, to be included. I've talked about it a lot, two-way conversation with the board. This is our community. We want to play an active role, and we all want to make this community better. Pursuant to this, I'm asking the board to create an inclusive forum where the parents can meet with the school board to discuss the curriculum, a two-way conversation. I acknowledge there is a curriculum committee, but in my attendance, my wife's attendance, that committee isn't really structured for a two-way conversation with the board. It only has a few board members on it. There's a couple parents, and it's almost all teachers and administrators. I don't want to diminish the value of that. I'm just saying that is not the two-way forum that parents want. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Will.
Clay?
Congratulations, Dr. Spickard, you got a B. Class, who out here would give her a B? You got one vote.
I'd give an A if you were asking.
Good, okay, A's, B's, and
I
about
don't think
7,
we're supposed to be
about
giving
40
Ks,
F's.
but-
That's good. I'll take his time back off of mine. While you all were under the guise of the 7:30 evaluation, and again, congratulations on the B. That's a good thing. I wasn't even going to speak tonight, so I'm going to wing it, but the word collusion caught my ear. Very, very good word. Hopefully, you put some language like censure, back check, Repel Pisaki's circle back, to maybe go back over things that you must go over from the past 6 months fiasco. Communication, I give you an F. Openness, F. Attendance, you do show up. I'm going to give you an A there. So I agree with you on the A over there. self-pity and aggrandizement. F, works and plays well with others. Ms. Barnes, you're going to find out. Congratulations on your new post. The ability to build a league of lemmings. A. You got 2 A's on my report card, Ms. Stickard. You all are a reflection of her. She is a reflection of you. I strongly suggest over the next 6 months, or wait a minute, 2025. My math isn't as good as yours. That you ask some more questions earlier. You waited too long to stand up. Or it's going to get worse. Because what's going to happen when it's COVID-20, COVID-69, COVID dyslexia, where they spell it backwards, and you have to react again to an edict that was illegal from the get-go. Short and sweet, thank you very much. Congratulations on passing your test.
Thank you.
Amber, four.
It's actually really good to see everybody's faces. It's been a while. I don't need to stand that close. I want to follow up with the curriculum topic. I think that it's important, and I think that all parents here and in the community want to be a part of curriculum. I believe we all are worried that there are kind of woke ideologies going on, not necessarily here, but just within the public school systems. And it's important that we have a part in our community to make sure that those things are not happening here. As far as things that we would want to see our children learn, we took a survey. We want our children to learn the basics, reading, writing, arithmetic, right? That's what we always used to have a little song you sing. We want our kids to learn to think for themselves. We want our children to learn to engage in healthy and respectful debate. We want them to be proud Americans. Okay? We don't want our children learning to look down or separate themselves from other people. We want everyone to just love each other and be respectful of each other, to become good citizens of the United States. We want to see all the curriculum, all the books in the classrooms, in all the libraries, and other reading materials. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay. We will close public communications. On to the superintendent's report.
So as far as teaching and learning goes, our specialists and teachers have really been working hard on mid-year data to guide instruction. So we've been taking a look at those subgroups to see where we have any gaps that we need to close and to use that data to work with our students for the rest of this year. March is reading month, and that is evident in the elementary schools, so you can see it everywhere. I was a mystery reader at Scott and then also did a video for the elementary teachers to be able to share with their students since I couldn't make it into all the classrooms. The PTA is revived, so it was exciting to be able to attend their meeting last week. So I've been trying to meet with the group for the last 8 months, and so they're really working to try to fill all of their offices and work on fundraising. And the biggest thing that they spent a lot of time talking about was Teacher and Staff Appreciation Month, which is coming up in May. School safety, we put together a task force. We've met once and working on a grant to help provide additional safety structures in the school, working on updating our EOP, which is the Emergency Operations Plan. And there is a county meeting on the 18th to kind of solidify some of those county-wide practices to make sure that we're following all the same things and law enforcement are able to respond quickly. The ARP ESSER 3 plan, we finally received our last installment, so with that is $336,000, which through meaningful consultation has been designated toward counselors, so that's 3 counselors that will be able to be paid with those. And then today we met with Kevin Walters from MDE to discuss our 11T application, so that's our largest amount of funding. And I believe Rob will have a presentation for you next board meeting on all of those different buckets and funding and how they equivalent to per pupil funding of our district compared to other districts. I think that's important for you guys to see. As far as COVID updates, there was communication on 2/16. I remember the day because it was my birthday. The state came out and dropped their requirement to masks, so that's why the communication came out, dropping our mask mandate. Our dashboard right now has 2 positive cases for the district, and updates from the health department they've moved to low and high intensity, and that's how they're looking at if students will need to quarantine or right now. Not. So low intensity are pretty much the school contacts, which don't need to. They do recommend masking for students who have had exposure. And then high intensity contacts are those that are mostly at home contacts. So for the most part, there was communication that went out to families. They'll receive a notification about exposure, but it's very unlikely that they would receive a high intensity contact. The health department has asked if teachers know of any. So, for example, if kids are spending the majority of the day together in a vehicle or overnights or sharing food or something like that. But for the most part, you won't see any high intensity contacts coming from schools. Our test to stay coordinator is continuing to work with us. So I don't know if you remember or not, but she started out school exposures only and then opened it up to at-home exposures where the majority of the testing had been done. So we're going to kind of assess how that goes for the next 2 weeks to see if we need every day or if we can cut back to 2 or 3 times a day. She's paid hourly, so the more hours she works, the more pay she gets, the fewer hours, the fewer pay. But we're also working with her to do notifications to help take that burden off of the offices and the principals as well. So I do want to answer a question about visitors. So a narrative is trying to get created, and the answer is they are all of the above. So when we had our first meeting about back to school plans, it was mentioned by several principals that teachers were not feeling comfortable in having room parents. So room parents are kind of a visitor, somebody that would come. And so we left that up to building principals to decide. So that was the teacher comfort. And then visitors is the same as always has been. There are pretty strict policies that are in place, and those are all driven from the principal. So people who want to visit the schools work with the principals directly on those visitations. And our board policy outlines what those look like. So as far as strategic planning, we are working with Jay Bennett and Bob Herrera, and I think Jay Bennett has contacted most of you. If you haven't done your one-to-one with him yet, please make sure that you schedule that. The invites have gone out, their surveys have gone out, focus groups times have been created, our peer districts have been selected, and they get most of their data from my school data, but there are a few things that they need specifically from the district, so we're working on that. A lot of HR data as far as the degrees that our teachers have, how long our teachers have been here, some information about AP classes, so things that they wouldn't necessarily find out on reporting we're putting together for them to prepare for that. And that's all I have for you today.
I have a question. The safety grant, is that the MSP, the Michigan State Police Safety Grant?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell me and anyone else who's here exactly where to find the policies on visitors?
So if you go to board, the board website, and then click board, and then you go to policies, and then if you just do a search for visitors, then those policies will come up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so the safety grant, some of the things that we're working on, the money has to be spent within a year, and if you qualified for previous years, you are highest priority. So we did qualify for a large grant in 2019. But we are submitting for video intercom systems that do background checks on visitors. And then and it's also a two-way communication with video. And then outside protective film glazing for windows, and some speaker replacements for our PA system, and I'm missing, and trauma supplies. So all of our trauma kits and trauma bags, so if there's an evacuation, those all need updated. So those are the things that will be written into the safety plan.
Follow your other question on the strategic planning. I know I've had some questions from the community and parents. How do they get involved if they want to be involved? Who do they contact? I had some contact me. provided some names. I know there's others that are interested in participating.
So the sweet spot for the retreat is 40 people, so that's why I asked everybody from the board to put together 2 people, the principals put together 2 people, I talked to union leadership and they had certain reps, so we invited 80 for the retreat. So if we have, I think 25 have RSVP'd already. The due date is the 24th, and so if we don't get up to 40, then we'll do a second wave of invites. And then all of the stakeholder groups, the staff stakeholder groups are completely open, but the consultant asked us to put together invites for the focus group. So I took recommendations as far as, people who have attended board meetings or have applied to be on the board, those people have gotten invites as well. And then the best way to participate, anyone can do the survey. So I did meet with someone from MASB on Friday, and we've had 13 people respond to this, 1,300 respond to the survey already, which is, they said, is like unheard of. So.
And are these all open meetings? Or no?
So, well, the focus group is, it's an invited, because usually focus groups are smaller groups, but I think we invited close to 50 to that. Because we wanted to try to invite as many people as possible. And then the strategic planning retreat, yes, it's an open meeting. So there are people who have been invited to kind of sit around the table, but anyone can come and hear what's going on.
Of the 50 first, what's the makeup of district personnel employees in public?
Well, so we have to have pretty equal representation, so I would say it's probably half and half.
Any other questions for Dr. Spicker?
We've actually, right now, of the 25, I've had more, I think, public, and then board members.
But the board wouldn't be counting as part of the public, right? It'd be part of the employees.
Right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.